Okay, so in today's video, I'm going to show you exactly how I do my console benchmarks. I'm going to try and make it quick. I always say that. All right, anyway, so I've got the PS5 connected to my PC currently, right? The PC that I'm doing the desktop recording on as we speak. It is connected to an Elgato 4K capture card. I do have better luck with internal capture cards with PCIe, just when it comes to consistency. But for this video, I'm going to show you what I do with my Elgato 4K. It's an external USB capture card. My PlayStation connects to this, and then I've got a 4K monitor that connects to the capture card, right? So that's how I typically record footage. Now, the application that I use for my benchmarks is, or to put the overlay for the benchmarks, is called TRDrop. We'll get to that now. It wants uncompressed footage. Okay, so currently I'm recording at 1080p and at 59.94 for NTSC, right? This is the frame rate. It's just, you'll see now, if you record at 1440p or 4K, firstly, the file sizes are going to be enormous, and also there are maybe the risks of dropping frames. Okay, so 1080p is quite consistent, and then this basically just matches my console output. Video format is XRGB. I'm recording in Rec 709 color space, color range full, whatever. All right, so that's the settings for the capture card. And then for my recording settings, the reason why I'm showing OBS is because it actually has a profile here called lossless, right, for rate control. So I just select lossless there, and it is NVIDIA RTX 5080 that I've got in this machine. So I'm just using NVENC. And that's pretty much it, right? I use two applications for my recordings. OBS I typically just use for my gameplay recordings, and VirtualDub I use to record the footage for my benchmarks. But I'm going to show you both just in case you want to use either or. All right, so I'm going to start recording here with OBS, and we're just going to capture a few seconds of footage here, maybe 10 seconds or whatever. All right, so there's 10 seconds. Now, if we go have a look at what the file size looks like, it is this file over here, and it is 1.43 gig for 10 seconds. Okay, so all my other videos are a little bit longer, right, obviously. So that one's 42 seconds, and the performance modified is like 2 minutes. So you can see 2 minutes, 20 gig, give or take, right? So that's just the recording. So what I do now is, let's just minimize there. I'm going to open up TRDrop quickly. All right, and over here, I'm going to add my file, and it is this specific file over there. And you'll see that it sees it as 60 frames per second. Now, let's just close there. What I do then is I do disable the tear analysis because I'm not sure if it is working correctly or not, right? Then we go to FPS. I select a color for my overlay, and I select a pixel difference. Now, I make this 15 in videos that don't have motion blur, and sometimes I have to adjust this if I see that the frame rates don't really match up to the recording, right? And I'll show you how I make sure of that as well. All right, and that's basically it. So general, just these I leave default, 60 frames per second, 360 frames, whatever, frame time graph centering, FPS. This is the only thing that I changed, the pixel difference. All right, so now if I go to export, let's just select a folder. I'm gonna select my test folder. It's going to export it as an export sequence. Okay, what we can do is we can, I'm going to make it 1080p because my footage is 1080p, right? We can use live preview, and then it'll show you the gameplay in the background as well. And then if you select export as overlay, you're not going to see the background footage, but I'm going to leave export as overlay disabled for now. I typically record with export as overlay because this allows me to then put this overlay over other recorded footage, right? Because TRDrop does not export sound. So if I want sound in my benchmark videos, I export as overlay, and I take the footage that I just imported here, I import that footage into Adobe as well, and then I just slap this overlay on top of it. All right, but I'm gonna not make it an overlay now, just export quickly. and you'll see that the frame rate starts picking up. It takes a little while for everything to normalize, and then we should start seeing like a 60 frames per second, right? So you can see that it does take a few seconds for it to perfectly normalize, and then it should be a constant 60 frames per second. Now, this is a perfect example of why I prefer not to use OBS, because sometimes there are dropped frames. As you could see there, the frame rate did drop, and we saw a few frame time spikes. Okay, now this is why I leave the live preview enabled, so that I can see this. And now I can actually take this footage and compare it in frame by frame to see if it is actually accurate or not. I can tell you this is not accurate already, right? There's dropped frames, and the reason why there's dropped frames at the moment is because I'm doing desktop recording while also doing a recording in OBS. So I believe the encoder is probably just overloaded, but that's basically TRDrop, okay, and it does export it into this export sequence over here. So if we go to that export sequence, which is just under videos and then test, you'll see we've got 644 images. All right, so what I then do is I go into Premiere Pro. I've got a new project here, and I can import my footage. Now if I go to it's under videos, test, I select the first one and I select image sequence and I open. All right, so now I can drag and drop this into my keep existing settings, so drop it into my timeline, and now you can see this is basically our footage. I'm just going to scale into frame size just so you can see, and there we have, it shows 25 seconds, right? If you play here, this is too slow. All right, because let me just show you what you need to do is before you import it. I want to show you this because I've fallen for this a few times. So you right click on your export sequence, you go to modify, you go to interpret footage, and then we're going to make this 59.94 because oops, 94, I think, because this is what I recorded it at, right? Okay, so we're going to add this in then, and now it's just over 10 seconds, basically what the length of our recording was. So we know this is correct. So just again, scale to frame size. Now you can see what's happening here. You can check your performance and whatnot. So there's no way for me to see the performance beforehand. I can only see it afterwards. Okay, I'm gonna do one thing quickly, and that is to just export it as an overlay. All right, so I'm going to export as overlay. Let's just select this folder. I'm just going to delete this quickly. So I'm going to select that folder again, and now I'm going to export it as an overlay. Okay, now it's a little bit quicker. Now 10 seconds takes, I'm not sure how long this is going to take, 30 seconds, right? Maybe a little bit longer. And that's only for 10 seconds of footage. Typically I record 5 minutes or so, and then I have to export this and I have to cut and whatnot. So this process can take a long time. Right, so I'm going to let it, actually not going to let it finish completely. So I just want to get it to this drop here. So we got 65%. So let's just go into Premiere Pro again. I'm going to delete the original sequence, and then I'm going to import it again as an image sequence. And again, you need to modify, interpret, and 59.95. So 59.94, sorry. And we do this. And now we do have just an overlay. Okay, so what you can do now is that original footage that you recorded, you can put it in here and have this as an overlay. I'm just gonna, I mean, I'm not even going to add the the exact footage here, but let's just say we add this one here. Okay, and it's going to take some time just to update, but there you have it. So let's just do scale to frame size, and now you've got your frame rate overlay on top of your gameplay. Obviously you want to import the exact same file that you imported here, you import it into Adobe, and then everything will match up perfectly. And then you've got sound as well. So that's typically what I do if I want to get sound. All right, so now we've covered both. I'm going to show you one other thing quickly. All right, so I'm just going to add the file back, so I'm back into TRDrop, and I want to show you how you can do comparisons. So if we import two files here, so I'm going to import the one that I just created, and then whatever intro. Okay, so one is much longer than the other one, doesn't really matter. Then we go back into our options here, we disable that, and for this one, again, I closed TRDrop, right, so I have to do this. So set the pixel difference to 15, apply to all videos, and then we can just change the color again. This is typically what I do for Xbox, and then Xbox versus PlayStation, right? And now you have two videos side by side. So now if you go and export, right, we do not, once again, I just want to show you. I think you get the idea. So if we hit export now, you'll see the frame rate differences with the two videos, and you can see that the green line is actually recorded correctly without any drops, whereas the blue line, there were drops, and you can actually go back and you can see that there were drops in the actual recording. So that's how I detect it manually. I've got the PlayStation 4K monitor right next to the monitor I'm doing my my OBS recordings or my VirtualDub recordings on, and they both run exactly at the same time. And if I do see a dip on the OBS monitor and not on the gameplay monitor, then I know that OBS dropped a frame. Okay, so in that way, OBS can be a little bit inconsistent. Okay, but I think the encoder was just a little bit overloaded. Anyway, so now this is basically, now you've got a side-by-side footage, PlayStation versus Xbox. Not really PlayStation versus Xbox, but you know, this is basically what I do. But then what I actually do is just export the overlays and then import it manually. Now the app I typically use is called VirtualDub2. So I'm just going to open this quickly, and then you go to Capture and Capture AVI, and here is our PlayStation recordings, right? And it's been running in the background for quite a while. The room is very hot. Anyway, so there we have it. Again, we can just see what's happening there. It's recording at 1080p. So if we just go into, you have to set a capture file. So set capture file. I just have a folder called VirtualDub recordings. So let's just call it test. Okay. And then under capture settings, I just set 59.9 for it again. Okay. And then under video compression, uncompressed. This is very important. Uncompressed video footage. Okay. And then under custom format, this is where I set 1080p and YUYT. I can never say that. Okay. So you can play around a bit with this depending on your capture card. See which one works best for you and just use that. All right. So now that we've got Ghost of Yotei here in the background again, I'm going to press F5 and that's going to start a capture. And immediately it feels a lot smoother than OBS, right? So VirtualDub definitely works a lot better, in my opinion. I've had better results with OBS using an internal capture card. Okay, so that's VirtualDub. Basically, that's all you have to do, right? You can import manual codecs and all that kind of stuff as well if you want to be a real professional. So now that we've got the VirtualDub recording, I'm just gonna add this one quickly. So VirtualDub test again, and if we then just again set the options here, so 15 for no tear analysis, and we go and export. Let's export to the same location or whatever. You've seen pretty much what I do now, and there you go. So it's going to start exporting the video with the frame time graph and everything on top of it. And as I said, you can export it as an overlay, which is what I typically do, and then add this into Adobe afterwards. Now there is one thing that you can do to verify, and that is to make sure that at 60 frames per second, every single frame is different. Okay. And I'm going to I'm actually going to show you doing a 30 frames per second recording. Okay, so for that, I'm going to go back into VirtualDub quickly. I'm going to close up here. All right, so we're back in VirtualDub, and I'm just going to select 30 frames per second here. Okay, just to show you that it is actually working. It's not just going to record at 60 frames per second. All right, so you can immediately see it is a little bit slower. All right, so F5, okay, set capture file, my bad. So set capture file, I'm going to use the exact same file name, whatever, press F5 and it's going to start capturing. And on the right, you can see that currently it's, the file is already a gig and a half, 2 gig. So in VirtualDub, the file sizes are bigger than an OBS with these particular settings, right? So anyway, it's quite big. Let's just cancel that. Okay, I'm going to close that up again, and I'm going to go back into TRDrop quickly. I'm going to add that file, which is our test file, and I'm just doing this quickly, right? So disable tear analysis 15 for this one, and that's it. Okay, so then if we go export, I'm just going to create a different folder here. Let's just call it test2 or new folder, whatever. Okay, so I'm going to export it at 1080p and live preview, and let's just do an export. Okay, so my pixel difference did not take effect. Okay, so I'm happy that happened because the recording is at 60 frames. It's showing 60 frames per second. So that's definitely not right. Right? Okay, so 1.5, whatever, clicking apply to all videos. That shouldn't make a difference, right? But let's go. And now you can see that it's going to start lowering the frame rate to 30 frames per second. That's basically where we started recording at. Okay, and that is the portion that I'm interested in the section I'm going to be showing you next in the editing app. Okay, so that's why pixel difference is very important. If you like, there's really no way for you to know off the bat that it is incorrect, except if you know that the mode is 30 frames per second, but it shows 60 frames per second on screen, you know that pixel difference is incorrect, or your file, the recording is not clean, because an artifact in a recording can be picked up as a pixel difference and can be shown as a new frame, for example. Right, so anyway, so 30 frames per second, pretty much all the time there. So I think we're done here with this one. So let's go back into Adobe. I'm going to import the video that I just created, which was a new folder. Okay, so image sequence, and I'm going to open again. Remember to modify, interpret footage 59.94. Go ahead, click OK, and we've got 18 seconds of footage here. So it's going to scale to frame size here, and now you can see there's our 60 frames per second, and now there's our 30 frames per second. Now, the way you can verify that this is incorrect is because we know quality mode is 30 frames per second. So if we get here where it says 60 frames per second, it should show a new frame every time we click next. Okay, but it doesn't, because we've got 30 frames per second in a 60 frames per second container. So what that means is that every second frame will be a new frame. Okay, so this one is a new frame. The next one will not be a new frame, and then the next one will. All right, so that's how we know this is 30 frames per second, because the container, the video timeline is 60 frames per second. So, whoops. So that means that every second frame is going to be a new frame. Okay, and now we can see that it is, every second frame is a new frame, yet it's showing 60 frames per second. So obviously our export for TRDrop did not work correctly. Obviously we picked that up, and that's why I do the live preview, so that I can pick stuff up like that and not wait 2 hours for an export to complete and only then pick it up. All right, and then if we get here, 60 frames per second should now be 100% correct with no new frame, no new frame, and there we go. So that's basically what I do. And then I just continue with my editing. I'll record my voiceovers and upload to YouTube. And then you should now be 100% correct with no new frame, no new frame, and there we go. So that's basically what I do. And then I just continue with my editing. I'll record my voiceovers and upload to YouTube. And then you guys click like and subscribe like I'm going to ask you to do to this video. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. And as always, we hope to see you in the next one.